ecosystems should grow, the soil system should grow, the biodiversity should grow. People should healthy. You know, yesterday night I was being interviewed for a podcast, and this young man asked me, he says, "So what's your measure of a good society?" And I said, a twinkle in the eyes of the people. You know, I have street dwellers in Bengal. I tell you, they're living on a street, but they'll have a 6-course meal. Maybe with this much fish, but they'll still make their fish curry. And the ability to enjoy life. Where does the twinkle in your eye come from? That you're at peace within yourself and you're at peace in the world. And there's a grayness and there's a deadness that spreads as people are sucked into consumerism. Yeah? And people are sucked into always feeling inadequate. What is consumerism? Consumerism is, no, you're wearing a purple kurta. No, it's out of fashion now. Go buy the orange one. And by the time you buy the orange, it'll be yellow. And by the time it's yellow, that's how obsolete. Yeah? They're literally now promoting clothing to be worn once. I'm still wearing my saris and my mother's saris. So my mother's saris are 70 years. My saris are easily 50 years. I don't throw them away. When they get really bad, I turn them into a little quilt or a little cover for a quilt. So clothes are not supposed to be thrown away. Food is not supposed to be thrown away. Yeah? And this, the fast fashion issue is unbelievable. First, they make you feel your clothing is inadequate. All down the road when I used to come, every shop had the most beautiful fabrics. They pleased your eye. And now all you get is these leftovers rags. This year suddenly, what's all over the town is these night suits for women, and women are wearing it during the day because sold as fashion. These knitwear. And the Chinese are having a field day. So development, growth, and what was the third thing I'd mentioned? Innovation, yeah. Innovation I already talked about. Appropriating the creativity of nature, the creativity of the peasant, the creativity of the worker, the creativity of women, and making it appear as if capital created it. Capital can't create anything. Capital is a construct. A piece of money has no creative power in and of itself. It is the resources it commands that are its value. And money is not a creative factor, it's merely an exchange measure. And it was meant to be a shortcut, instead of me carrying 10 loads of clothing and you carrying 60 bags of wheat and us exchanging that, money was made the shortcut, Okay, I'll take this is worth this much wheat and this is worth, that's all. But because capital was given a life of its own, detached from the resources that created the value or the work of people that created the value. People's work as creator of value has disappeared. And to me, that is the recovery that we have to make. The minute we do something with our minds and our bodies, we are creating. But we too have been reduced to lumps of mass, non-creative. So the two creative forces of the universe, nature and people, have been turned into dead inputs. Yeah? Nature's raw material, people are raw material. And the extraction then becomes as if it was creating in and of itself. Yeah? So that's where the illusion of innovation, invention in living systems, I would not call, I said there are systems in which you actually have innovation. But in living systems, you by and large appropriate the power. When you take a patent on turmeric and its healing powers, you are basically pirating the healing qualities of a plant. When you patent the aroma of the basmati, you're appropriating the qualities of the basmati. and you know, you said, I've never used the category we are developed, we are underdeveloped. No, I think every being, every human being, every culture is at any point living what its potential is. Sometimes its potential has been eroded. You know, colonialism eroded the context. I've never called it development, I've called it maldevelopment. Maldevelopment measured in the context of healthy systems, ecosystems, healthy societies, healthy democracy. So when I started, like I always say, I found development hiding behind a eucalyptus tree. Because till that I didn't know we were being developed. You know, we were living. And I suddenly found all around Bangalore the land going under eucalyptus. And you know, every time something kind of, you know, doesn't hang together, it seems out of place, I, you know, have to understand why is this out of place thing taking over. So I did a study for the Indian Institute of Management, became a very important study, shook up the administration, shook up India's forest policy. And the study basically found that, you know, why were the farmers planting eucalyptus? 2 reasons. The World Bank was giving a loan. The World Bank was giving a loan and the richer farmers were taking it because Mr. Devraj Urs used to be Chief Minister of Karnataka, and he had passed a law that if anyone tills the land for 7 years in a row, then the landless peasant has rights to that land. Because there were lots of absentee landlords. So this land to the tiller movement was very powerful. Yeah? So here was the eucalyptus, World Bank's coming with it. There's need for pulp, raw material. The forests are disappearing. And what happened was the landlords grabbed it because now they could be absentee landlords and not have landless peasants working the land because the eucalyptus grows on its own. No one will graze it, it's ungrazable. No one will eat it, it's uneatable. You know? And 11% of the land around Bangalore had shifted to this monoculture. And that's when I realized, oh, there's a World Bank. Oh, we get developed. And we are supposed to be underdeveloped. The beautiful honge tree, that honge in the middle, I've planted it in honor of that work I did in the 80s. Because this was the palm tree around every field in Karnataka. It's a fertilizer, it's a pest control, it's an oil seed. Yeah? It gives you everything you need to run a farm. And then they were putting eucalyptus, which gives you nothing for the village. And its roots in a dry area, we did so much research. In a dry area, the roots of a eucalyptus tree were going 30 meters. So if I had a eucalyptus plantation and next door was a ragi field, my ragi was starved of water and nutrition. And that's when the farmers, you know, they picked up the study of ours. So being developed, being underdeveloped, I think our self-organized assessments. You know, am I developed to my full potential? Are you developed enough to teach Hindi? Yeah? So it's your measure of what you aspire to be. It cannot be an external measure. It will always be wrong. But we had development, we had globalization, now we are having the collapse of economies. Even though some parts of economies are doing very, very well. But look at the fact that everyone was running to IT. And every big company is shedding half their staff. Twitter did it, and now I think Meta is going to do it. Yeah. So next time you sit in your class, have a conversation about life. Have a conversation about, I know because I've been to so many campuses in America, 1/3 of the students are not eating. They're going to food banks, food pantries. Otherwise they can't have food. That's how severe the cost of living is. Talk to them about their loans. They're burdened by the loans. So I think we have an equalizer across the world in terms of humanity not being able to live in fully human ways, meet their needs for food and water, meet their need for education, meet their needs to be free and democratic, you know. So those are the conversations we need to realize we are, you know, that's Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One humanity on one planet rich in diversity. Never leave the diversity out. The minute you leave the diversity out, you get it wrong. Because monocultures cannot sustain themselves. Not monocultures of societal organization, nor monocultures of ecological systems. Monocultures are by their very nature unsustainable and need huge external inputs. And the minute you have external inputs, you have centralization. Centralized systems are very vulnerable. For a while they look like they're under control, but when they collapse very, very badly. Yeah? So decentralization and diversity is sustainability.
I have a question for you. So I know that there is a huge awareness for, you know, plant-based food nowadays, getting out of like red meat. What is your opinion about plant-based burgers and things that are coming up out of the laboratory?
Well, I don't think I don't like to reduce plants to plant-based. It's turning food that is, you know, we say annam brahman. अब ब्राह्मण को कह रहे हो जाओ raw material बन के lab में. Wrong, na? The word plant-based is already reducing food to a raw material. And it is taking away the food as a being, you know. We have a whole Upanishad called Taittiriya Upanishad. I gave a lecture for Prince Charles, who's now King Charles, in London once, and it's called, what do I call it? The gift, sacred gift of food. That's when I first read the Taittiriya Upanishad. Amazing. Everything is food, everything is something else is food. Now just can you imagine, put that into your mind, and the level of humility it brings to you, because you will be food of microorganisms at the end of it. You know? We are not the top of the pyramid. We are just part of the chain. Yeah? And since we are part of the chain, maintaining that chain is our duty, and plants are beings. So anything that puts based on an integral being is an insult to that being. It's a bad word and it's a bad idea. You know, food is everywhere. Food is everywhere for every being. And the minute you say plant-based and lab-made meat, you're playing two tricks with yourself. You don't want to eat meat. There's so much vegetables in the world. This country has so much vegetarian options. Yeah? I remember when we used to get onto trains and flights, the first thing they'd ask is, veg or non-veg? Veg or non-veg? Clear option. Make the option. Why do you want to take plants and force them to be meat-like? And then you have to do all kinds of things, make fake blood and make all kinds, and 14 patents. You know, the Impossible Burger has 14 patents to it. So if there's a thing, what I've learned about food is it's living. Good food is living. That's why we call it, you know, sattvic. The second, food is the currency of life. Everything is linked through food. Everything is linked. The pollinators link the food, the soil organisms link, everything is, the circulation of life is the circulation of food. So the minute you make it toxic for any one part of it, it's toxic throughout. And the third is that the biodiversity is what makes food systems healthy. Biodiversity in the soil, biodiversity of plants, and biodiversity in our gut. We talked about it the other day. Now, to me, you know, Mr. Gates spent 20 years looking at the impact of all your fake ingredients on all the gut microbiome. And if you can turn out healthy people after 20 years, okay, make fake Impossible Burgers. Otherwise, we got enough options. We didn't start eating and growing food yesterday. To turn food into innovation is to try and say, no one knew how to eat before I decided I'll make fake meat. Arre Baba, arrogance.